Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be Your Best. So I'm Antoinette, and I'm here with my co-host Alan, who I'll introduce shortly. But today's episode is a good one. So it's basically about when you're doing all the right things and you're monitoring yourself, and then something goes haywire, and you're trying to figure out why. So we're going to dive into that in a little bit. But let me introduce Alan.
And things always go haywire. So it's not always the numbers to rely on. You have to actually do a little research and figure out what's going on behind it. But also in the studio today, once again, we have our special guest, Mike.
Hey, Alan and Antoinette, thanks for having me back. I'm enjoying sitting in here with you guys because we're on the same kind of journey.
Yeah.
You know, I learn a lot listening, and sometimes I talk too much, but we'll go from there. Thank you.
So, Antoinette, have you had stressful things that have thrown you off course, but only temporarily?
Yeah. I have one of those lives that people tell me all the time, you need to write a book. Like there's always some crazy 1 in a million thing that's going to happen. It's going to happen to me. So, like I've had 3 members of my family die in the last year and a half. In the last week, I've had a big court thing. I've had a move. I bought a house. I have another contract going on. I have stuff happens.
Right.
And I think you could do all the right things in the world, and sometimes life just throws you some curveballs, and you have to deal with that.
Right.
And then there's also sometimes where maybe you don't have anything going on, that like maybe you think you're doing everything right, and then you're monitoring yourself and you're like, wait, why am I gaining weight and I'm fasting? Why am I, my blood sugar rising and, I haven't had any, like what's going on? So I think we should go into
I can, lately, within the last, I've only been doing this roughly 2 months, but I test my glucose levels with the finger prick several times a day. In fact, it's to the point where I have to use some other spot to shoot it because I got literally have track marks in my fingers. So if I ever get arrested, it's not drugs. But no, with the stress thing, I've been dealing with a terminally ill family member who also just recently passed away. I've been dealing with it for a long time, but it came to a head where it became the end days about 2 weeks ago. And I have, fortunately for this discussion, been monitoring my glucose levels and my ketose levels and my weight and what I eat and everything pretty religiously for the last 8 weeks. So when this came to a head, the numbers for my levels, my glucose levels and my ketose levels, they just went completely berserk, although my diet didn't change. I've been very strict on my diet. So cortisol, your cortisol levels go up when stress goes up. When cortisol levels go up, you produce more glucose, even though you haven't eaten anything. So glucose goes up. When glucose up, ketose levels go down. So my numbers went completely wonky, but not because of a diet change. It was because of what was happening in my life at the time.
Yeah.
And I maintained my diet and my regiment through it. And the person finally did pass away, but it's been a few days now since that happened, and the stress level is reducing, and I'm watching the numbers balance back off almost instantly as the stress level goes down. So we can't always live by the numbers. We have to live by what's happening around us.
Yeah. I mean, the numbers are important to monitor. Not like you don't have to monitor daily, but even like most people, even if you're on, let's say, a weight loss journey, they're not going to say, weigh every day.
Right.
Like you want to look at trends. Are you in a downward trend or an
Right.
upward trend? But anything you do in life, whether you're learning a bicycle or, anything that you're doing, it isn't this straight line. There's always kind of this peaks and valleys, and that's just life. So even though every day you're headed in the right direction. There's going to be times you're going to dip down or go up. I know for me, the thing where I always suffer is sleep. Like there are sometimes I'll get no sleep or just an hour of sleep or whatever. And same thing, I could be fasting and the next day I literally did not eat anything, drink anything, and I gained a pound.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? Somehow it does. It somehow manages to happen. And it's one of those that it's being overstressed or overworked or whatever it is. Your body has, your body isn't concerned with what you weigh. Your body isn't concerned with what your numbers are on glucose. Your body wants to survive. Your
Right.
body's main goal is to survive. And sometimes that means creating more of this hormone and less of this one to help with whatever circumstances you're dealing with at the time.
Yeah, and it's extremely important to understand that because, I've been logging everything because I'm recording my journey so that I can try to help other people, which is why I'm testing myself so many times and have track marks on my fingers. But as the stress level, and I didn't realize the stress level was going up at the moment that it started to go up. But the numbers started to show, things going wrong on the number thing. And I started to try to research to figure out why I'm doing everything right and everything's going wrong numbers wise. I didn't realize at that moment that, as you just mentioned, sleep is extremely important. Managing stress properly is extremely important because those two things will throw everything out of
Yeah.
whack. You have to be able to correct it. Now, sleep, I'm not good at sleep either. I normally get a little more than you. I average about 5 hours a day, and which isn't theoretically enough, but that's what I've adapted to, and that's what I run on. But the stress part, when you throw that in there, especially when it's, an emotional stress, your numbers go out the window.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're off course.
Yeah.
That just
That's
means
it's something I've had to learn because I have sleep issues.
Hmm.
I might get total number of hours, but they're not non-interrupted hours. And those mornings when I do my fasting glucose test, really, those where I see the numbers going up and I say, okay, I didn't eat anything wrong. I went to bed, but it had not a restful sleep.
right.
And your body does something when it happens. So it's something you have to learn. It doesn't make me feel better when I look at that number.
Right. But you
What can I
understand
do?
it.
What can I do to get it down and still not have a good night's sleep? I don't know. But that's a common thing that, to begin with, most people's fasting glucose test in the morning is going to be higher than most of the rest of their day, just in
Yes.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't get panicky over it.
Yeah.
But it is something you try to, in your mind, try to, why?
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a really good point that I just want to mention too, is the time of day that you're testing these things matters,
Yes.
So for example, if you're doing it every day when you wake up and one day it's 6 a.m., one day it's 12 p.m., one day, that all factors in,
Yes.
And to Mike's point, like when your glucose is going to rise naturally because when you gear up, when you start the day, cortisol rises and it's getting your body going. Your glucose is going to rise even before you eat anything. You're going to have more glucose in your system, where if you just waited a couple hours, it'd be a little bit lower. Also, too, like if you're taking your blood pressure, if you take that right after you eat, it's going to be higher than on a fasted or empty stomach. So if you're monitoring stuff, at least make sure you're consistent in what you're doing, so if otherwise you're really comparing apples to pineapples, they're totally different things. It's you can't really set a baseline if nothing's set in stone. So if all you're doing is just, whatever, if you're not, I don't want to do it every morning at this time or whatever, just look at trends. Don't beat yourself up over a bad day or a bad week, but look at trends. And I think some things that I think people sometimes they're not aware, we brought it up in other shows, where maybe their weight is going up, but yet they're eating better, they're having more protein, they're doing low carbs, they don't understand. Sometimes it's body recomposition. You might actually look better, but you have more muscle and less fat. And since, you know what I mean? So,
Right. And muscle weighs more.
well, a pound's a pound, but muscle is more dense.
Oh, more
you know
dense,
what I
yeah.
mean? So it's one of those that you if all you're doing is weighing yourself, do other tests too. You could take measurements, you could take photos. If you're doing all those three things and the weight's going up, but your measurements are, your waist circumference is going down, and you look better in a photo. I mean, obviously you're still going in the right direction. The weight is eventually going to level itself out and do whatever.
Right.
But if you're doing multiple tests, it's just a little bit more accurate of a snapshot of what's going on around you, I think.
Well, and that's what I'm basically doing. I try to do the testing at similar times, but I also mark down the times that it is, so that over time the trend can be seen, and you can see that early morning glucose rises and dips down during the day. One of the most important things for me, though, that I've discovered in order to maintain my glucose levels properly is that, well, one, you can't eat late at night. That's a killer. But I have got to the point where my breakfast, I preload with breakfast. If I eat a breakfast, it's heavy on fats, medium on protein, and that's my breakfast, because that's going to run me pretty much until the end of the day. And I don't always eat dinner. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. Used to be I ate 3 meals a day because you're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, but that didn't mean I was hungry at the times to eat them. But it's important, as you just mentioned, is to follow the trend. If I eat and front load myself in the morning, I have all day to burn all of that stuff off. If I have a light breakfast and then, a heavy dinner, my numbers in the morning and the way I feel in the morning is just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you could have the same amount of calories, but it's doing two totally different things to your body.
Exactly.
So-
And they're not giving your body a chance. Your body's wasting energy, not wasting, but your body is using energy to digest food while you're sleeping rather than repairing itself while you're sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too, like if you're keeping a journal, just do a one-word thing like, stressed out or, whatever when you're doing it. And you'll start to see trends like, oh, wow, when this happens, it always jumps up or whatever. Because I've noticed that if I do, whatever, even if I go to the gym, which is funny, like when I'm on a good gym routine, when I go to the gym and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to work out and all this stuff, my weight always bumps up a little bit the next day and then down the following after a heavy lift session. So again, there's just silly things, but I think so many people are so focused. I think women are more focused on, oh my God, I gained an ounce, all hell's breaking loose. Where men, I don't think they're so concerned with the weight, where they're more concerned, like if they're on a lifting schedule, they're looking to gain more muscle or do something like that. So again, if you're on the weight thing, don't be so married to the scale. And for men, again, don't be so married to, the number, but are you getting stronger? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, are things that were difficult for you to do or impossible now all of a sudden easier? It's because the healthier you get, like if you're sitting there, and your end goal is to be skinny or this and this, and that's what you're chasing, you should really chase health, and then all the stuff works itself out.
Right. And that's exactly what happened with me. When I started this whole thing, because my glucose level was sky high, I didn't try to drop weight to bring it back. I changed diet and lifestyle, and the weight dropping was just an ancillary side effect that was actually a very positive one.
Yeah.
I didn't have well, to be honest, for years, I've thought to myself, I should weigh 190 pounds. I don't know why 190 is the number that I picked, but I was up to 225 pounds. And now I'm, as of this morning, because I'm still logging everything I do, this morning I was 190.4 pounds.
Wow.
So, I've lost a considerable amount of weight, but that's not my goal. And the 190 number that I picked out of the air, I chose it because when I was in high school and in the best physical shape that I've ever been in, playing sports and everything, I weighed 180 pounds. Well, I've been out of high school for 3 or 4 years, so I gave myself 10 pounds. So 190 pounds. I have no scientific reason for that number, but that's the way I chose it.
Yeah.
And I didn't start this as an attempt to get to 190 pounds. It just happens that my body for the last week has sort of plateaued right at 190 pounds. Don't know why. But it doesn't matter to me if it's 190 pounds. What matters to me is whether I'm getting more healthy, and through blood tests and so forth to see if I'm healthy. That's what truly matters, and that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find out as you continue on this diet, your body will pick the weight. You'll continue not necessarily dropping more and more and more weight. It'll get to a point where your body is saying, okay, this is the right weight, but you can continue on eating that correct food.
Right.
Be there.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not talking about continuing to eat to become anorexic.
No, and that's
No.
not
It's
even
not
part
healthy.
of this. Yeah.
But we've been talking about the body knows what it should have. We don't always know, but it will help you get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So if that 190, whether you picked it or knowledgeable or not, is the right weight for you, you're going to continue on this diet and you will be plus or minus 5 on that forever.
Right.
And
Right.
it also depends too. Like if you start a resistance strength training program, it may go up from there.
Yes.
Maybe
Well,
your
you
perfect
know-
weight then would be 210 if you want to add a lot of muscle, or it
Well,
all.
you were mentioning just a minute ago that you go to the gym quite often, and that can fluctuate your things. And I drive by the gym.
And I'm right behind you.
No, but I think the main thing too is like if you're noticing you're doing all the right stuff and stuff is askew and you don't know why, then in that case I think your body's telling you something. Something in your routine is wrong. And just from people commenting on the podcast or people saying stuff to us in passing who've listened, a lot of times people think they're following what we're saying, with like, oh, I just did fasting and then I broke it with, and then it's like this
Right.
smorgasbord of fruits and all this high glucose, like you're not really following.
Low-fat yogurt is one of the things I hear all the time. Like, you couldn't eat a worse thing.
But it's those things that, make sure you are doing the right things. And if something is going askew, odds are there's something in what you're doing that is not right. It's
Yeah.
especially if it's sustained, like I'm getting good sleep, I'm eating good, things are pretty not too stressful, just the norm, and your glucose is going up or you're gaining all this weight. You're
Yeah,
definitely off track.
And something's wrong. And we were discussing earlier, and I don't know if it was during the show or off or between shows, about when you read the label, the ingredients label, and it says, no sugar. There's so much crap in there as a sweetener, because everybody wants the sweet tooth, that phony chemical increase in flavor or increase in sweetness is throwing everything out of whack. Your body, and I have the issue, it's a cephalic response, it's called. When my body senses a sweet taste, it still believes I'm eating,
Sugar.
two tablespoons of Nutella on a cracker and kicks the glucose up,
Yeah.
even though there's no sugar coming in.
And also there's, I'll just give you one example. I mean, there's like hundreds, if not thousands. But you get something that's, let's say, stevia or something like that, where if you get, some brand name, it's not all, they'll mix it with like maltodextrin or something like that. So if you look, the main ingredients like maltodextrin, or even if let's say it's 40%, that is even though it may not have sugar, it does drive your glucose level way above beyond if you ate straight table sugar. So even though it says no calorie, no sugar, here you're thinking you're getting this sugar substitute. Like maltodextrin is made from all GMO corn. It's like terrible for you. And it's in a lot of these no sugar things that they mix it with this stuff. And it's causing, a spike. So again, if your numbers aren't tracking what you're doing, odds are they are tracking what you're doing and you're doing
Exactly.
something wrong. So like a little spike here or there under, a growth phase or a readjustment phase or a stressful phase, that's normal. But, when everything's fine and it's been weeks or months, your body's telling you you're doing something
You have
wrong.
to look at the trend, not at the minute by minute snapshot,
Yeah.
but at the trend, like you said earlier. And then if your body is not adjusting the way you think it should to your lifestyle change, then you need to re-examine the change that you've made.
Yeah.
However, we're running out of time
Yeah.
again. It
Too
seems
bad.
like-
But I think just to reiterate, I think the biggest thing is how are you feeling? I think
Yeah.
a lot of times people, even if you're on this journey and you feel like spent and exhausted, whatever, it's okay to like take a break, recoup, and then start fresh, readjust something. Sometimes people just push themselves a little too hard, or there's two types of people. The ones that like rip the Band-Aid off and they do better with that rather than trying to tease themselves with weaning themselves off things.
Right.
And then there's the other people where that's too drastic for them, where it sends their body into a shock and they're better stair-stepping it. So know yourself, if you're just not feeling it and you're not feeling well, readjust. That's the main thing, the main takeaway, I guess.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, for me, I was all or nothing. But I also viewed it at the moment that I started it a couple weeks ago as life or death. The reality was it was either fix it or go on medication for life, insulin and all these other diabetic medications that have so many side effects that, early death would come anyway. So I went all or nothing. But that's me, and I tend to jump feet first into, or head first into, the fire, whatever it is I tend to get involved with. But it doesn't have to be that way. It took you years to get to where you are. You can take some time to get yourself out of it.
Yeah. I found personally from speaking to people and other people, the all or nothing approach is usually the best, because the people that try to stair step it usually give themselves way too much time to, I'll do this. And then next thing they know, it's adding a little worse and a little worse. And it's actually doing a disservice to their health, where, I want to do this, but I can't eliminate, my coffee with sugar or whatever. And then I can't.
I actually heard that the
Yeah.
other day. The person could not eliminate coffee with sugar.
Yeah. Which I hear all the time. And in the end, it's there's this one doctor I like. He's like full on carnivore, this Dr. Anthony Chafee, but he says honestly, like, there's so many people that'll get themselves like 95% there or 90, and he goes, it's literally that last 2% that makes all the difference in the world. So a lot of times you think you're being kind to yourself and you're just prolonging the agony. So it is one of those that, I mean, be your own bet. Like, we're never going to tell you this is the way it has to be done. Know yourself. But in the end, the goal should be to be at the healthiest you could possibly be.
Yeah.
And why stop short if you don't have to?
Yeah. And I understand completely. I don't drink coffee. Love the smell, can't stand the taste. But I understand completely, that last little treat that you have, you don't want to get, it's like, this is the last little bit I have that I love. But you know what? With the neuropathy and things that can come over time, I'd rather not have the 3 tablespoons of Nutella on a cracker. Even though I love it, I'd rather not have it and be able to walk into my old age than be crippled up
Yeah.
and eating what I want. So yeah, take that step.
Because I find too, like with me, if I'm doing really well, then I'll be like, oh, I could just add this little, whatever. And then it might be fine the first day, the second day, but the next thing I know, my appetite starts increasing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not that I sit there and monitor, I don't keep a calorie log, but then all of a sudden I realize these little, I'll, have this no calorie something will now activate a sweet tooth that now makes me crave more food. Like I have a problem with dairy. Like I love dairy. And if I have a little, then I just want more and more and more. And next thing I know, I just ate all this dairy. And it's not because I was hungry. It's just because it's like, to me, there's no stopping point with
Right.
it,
You can't just eat one.
No, like I guess Dairies is my potato chip.
Well, go ahead and close us out.
We're so glad you joined us, and we'll be back next week. And our whole goal is to make sure that you be your best.
That's
See you
right.
next time.
Bye.